There. I thought about it for
Sorry, my job.
Yeah.
it goes any farther south. We can.
Someone sees that and Zoom and like zooms and then sees your smart helps. Maybe, but
If you notice, I didn't wear my orange shoes that night.
checked on you.
I didn't want to alarm him. I mean, like.
We got it. Yeah. Oh.
It's not dead. This isn't my area. It's not my.
Every time I come to a meeting, we get more goodies.
That's your Christmas present.
Yeah.
It's not here.
Oh, yeah. Like January's been like. I didn't hear the radio show today. Did it go well?
Well. Oh, I forgot, he said that at the leadership. And people texted me, I'm like. Hoping nobody would listen.
Well, I guess I missed Jim yesterday also, so I don't know leader cast.
I know.
I know. I got reprimanded for that too, so I just had to put it along.
I'm sorry. Road Summit.
Sorry. That's our bad.
The one that the attorney that said Jim might need this.
I mean, are we really getting through it? No, and it's not that much different. We had it like maybe 3.
And how did you end up?
I'll drop them like.
Representative.
I mean, email it to you.
I know. It's been-
And he goes. Yeah, I think he'd be good on.
Alex already apologized. He's like, I just want to let it be known.
Was that?
All last semester about having sick kids. And he's like, no, they've been sick like 4 times. Oh, that's who said that, Alex.
That's usually how it always works out.
Every time he texts me, he's like, I'm sorry to tell you this again.
I think I'll set up in.
Not my other kid.
Here's some investors.
That's a letter.
I know there's this huge TV breakout.
Varsity players.
Mine got jumped.
Just now. I got pneumonia. I like feel bad, so I was like emailing him to do something. Okay, and he like, and normally he does it like really fast. And like, later I'm like,
Better now.
come on, what are you doing? He's like currently dying.
Catching up a bit out of it. Give him a big round of applause when he walks in. You might get it. Okay, let's call this into order. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review the agenda. But we have introductions. Okay. Agenda revisions. I imagine that we have one coming up. The pause of the federal.
No, I'll cover that in my update.
You'll do that in your update? Okay. Consent agenda, any questions on the previous minutes or check register?
Okay. David's looking it over.
Yeah, the only question I had is, and I know in prior months that we would usually have kind of the funding source identified in that right-hand column. But there was only a couple of them that had that on the,
If the funding source isn't listed, then it's just general funds.
oh, okay.
Yes.
So approval of the consent agenda.
We approved the consent agenda.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Passes.
Oh, it's that riveting time we have every year with the audit. Okay. That's right.
All right.
We have the man of the hour here to explain everything, answer your questions, and brag about we're making progress.
All right.
Okay.
Well, that is in my agenda, it's right at the end, so. The letter that's up on the screen here is our required communication letter to the auditors, to start with governance and management. Excuse me. It starts out that we audited the financial statements of the college, as well as the discreetly presented component unit, which is the foundation. Professional standards require that we provide you with some information about our responsibilities under general accepted auditing standards, as well as the Kansas Producing Auditing and Accounting Guide and government auditing standards. Significant audit matters. Management is responsible for the selection and use of appropriate accounting policies. All those accounting policies are described in one of the financial statements. There were no new accounting policies adopted during the year. Accounting estimates are an integral part of financial statements. We did not identify any significant estimates, and we believe all financial statement disclosures are neutral, consistent, and clear. We found no significant difficulties in dealing with and performing and completing our audit. As always, I have nothing but great things to say about all management that I work with here. They expedite our requests, they're very accommodating now, and they certainly make the audit process easy. Professional standards require that we accumulate all misstatements identified during the audit. Other than those that are clearly trivial, we communicate them to the appropriate level of management, and management has corrected all such misstatements. In addition, we're required to communicate to all material corrected misstatements that were brought to the attention of management during the audit. And we provided them with the schedule of the adjusted journal entries. I don't know if that was, did that get attached to this?
I don't think so.
Okay, there's only a couple that I'll touch on, and they're pretty self-explanatory, so. There were no disagreement with management during the audit process. Management provided us with a letter accepting us responsibility for the audit. We're not aware of any consultation with any outside accountants specifically regarding the audit process, basically meaning that we don't believe that you're out shopping a second opinion. Then we generally discuss a variety of matters throughout the audit process. None of the discussions that occurred in the normal course of our professional relationship would preclude us from continuing as your auditors. Findings and recommendations. Internal control finding exists when the design or operation of control does not allow for management or employees in the normal course of performing their assignment functions or correct misstatements on a timely basis. In accordance. Just want to make sure I worded that right. In accordance with auditing standards, we are required to discuss any of those internal control findings with you. For those of you that have been on the board for a while and have heard my spiel for the last couple of years, you notice that this findings section used to get smaller and smaller every year, which is excellent. Not to say we don't find smaller things that we discuss with management, but these are deficiencies that we believe should be communicated to the board. And so one this year, in the carry forward from last year, the college is preparing monthly bank statements in Microsoft Excel, which inherently increases the risk of volume or increase the risk due to the high volume of transactions. We would recommend that the college utilize the bank reconciliation model in Zanzibar rather than Excel. So last year, if you remember, there was a couple other ones related to using modules in Zanzibar. One of them was the fixed asset, which had a huge undertaking to get that in during the year. It was done before the end of the fiscal year and available during the audit process. And so we communicated several times throughout the year to get that done. And I know that was a huge undertaking. The other one was the foundation was separately reporting in the financial statements and QuickBooks. And even at that point, it was still kind of hitting us, but all the information was getting in there. Kara's got that and put this into Zanzibar as well. So all of the financial information for both the college as well as the foundation within one financial reporting model. This makes it easier for pretty much everybody involved, especially during the audit process. Going through all that stuff. Other matters, we applied certain limited procedures on the discussion and analysis section. But we did not audit the MD&A, and we do not express an opinion, provide any assurance on it. Basically, what that means is all the information in there, the bulk of the information in there comes directly from the audit, but there's some narrative stuff in there that we don't necessarily audit. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, that's the responsibility of management by the correct information for that MD&A section. We were engaged to report on the budgetary comparison schedule, which is required supplementary, information that goes in the back, the financial statements. We do audit that information, but it's a pretty small schedule and pretty limited information. Basically, what we do is we check the approved budget, and that's the numbers that get dropped in. The information is intended solely for the use of the college and its board and management and should be provided, not intended to be provided for any other. Any questions on that letter? Real quick, I'll hit the journal entries. So we made a total of 7, but of those 7, 3 of them were reclass entries, basically meaning they had no effect on net income. So they were either reclassing something on the balance sheet or something on the statement. I generally don't, the presentational, I don't really go into those. He had 2 other ones that were very minor, just to roll forward net assets, like one of them had a net income effect of $13. The largest one that was made during the year that did have an net income effect was an amount for an ARPA LFRF grant was received in the prior year, but it was for this fiscal year. So it was recorded at last year's audit as deferred revenue. All of those funds were appropriately expended for this fiscal year, so we needed to recognize that revenue. That was just around $900,000. We had one other one related to the foundation, and that was basically trying to get the things cleaned up. There were basically just some interfund stuff. The net income effect on that was like $20,000. So at the end of the day, that ARPA one is really the only material one for the overall financial statements. But any questions on those? Kara does have a copy of all of the journal entries if you attach those or just so you can review it. Any questions on those? Financial statements. First couple, excuse me, first couple pages, we get to the audit report. Those 3 pages right there that have our logo on it. Ultimately, at the end of the day, those are the only things that belong to us as the auditor. We are engaged to issue an opinion on the accompanying financial statements. Although we do assist in drafting the financial statements, ultimately, at the end of the day, management is responsible for the fair presentation of those financial statements. First paragraph is kind of what the whole process is about, the opinion. We audited the accompanying financial statements of the college and its discreetly presented public union. In our opinion, financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respect financial position of the district, or sorry, excuse me, college as of June 30, 2024. Basically, what that means is that's a clean opinion. There's no higher level of opinion. There's nothing that was discovered during the audit that would preclude us from issuing that clean opinion. The next couple of paragraphs are kind of what I mentioned at the beginning, responsibility of management and our responsibility as the auditors. On page 2, there's a couple bullet points. And performing the audit, there's several things that we're required to do. And that's exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism when identifying and assess the risk of material statement, whether due to fraud or error. We're required to obtain an understanding of the internal control environment. However, we don't test the internal control environment. Therefore, we don't issue an opinion on the operational effectiveness. We evaluate the appropriateness of all accounting policies. We include whether in our judgment the conditions or events considered in the aggregate raise or stage or doubt about the college's ability to continue as a going concern. Basically, what that means is we feel that the college is going to be operating as it is 12 months from the balance sheet date. And I hope everybody here agrees that that's a resounding yes. The next 2 paragraphs, once again, talks about the supplementary information. And then on page 3, we also issue an opinion on the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. So that's the single audit portion of the financial statements. That's required for all of your federal money. Any questions on the audit opinion? All right, so the financial statements themselves, if you get past the DNA section, they start on page 9. We do the 2-column approach where we can show both the college and the component leading the foundation. I typically don't go into a deep dive in the financial statements for a couple of reasons. One, you're kind of several months past the end of the year. My general consensus is unless there's a ton of material entries, the information that you're seeing here is the same information that you saw throughout the course of that year, and then probably at your year. Some of them might be grouped a little bit differently, but ultimately, that financial statement information is what it is. We get to the notes of the financial statements, which start on page 12. And most of the first couple pages are boilerplate. They're carried forward from year to year. They're discussing your significant accounting policies. First one I always like to talk about is note 2. Statutes require a certain level of coverage when it comes to your banking deposits. And this year, both the college and the foundation are fully secured. Note 6 is kind of a breakdown of your capital assets, which has obviously significantly grown over the last couple of years. As of the date of June 30th, the project out here is still technically ongoing, which is why that shows up in construction process. But when we get to next year, when we get to the end of that project, before you can start the next phase, that'll get moved down and start beginning to be appreciated. So the expense side of that, the depreciation side will pick up, starting this fiscal year. Note 7, because it's the readers of the financial statement, just a little bit of information regarding that expansion project. Note 8. Is that one I always like to point to, because that gives a really good breakdown of debt. One thing I'll point out is the future debt schedule that's on page 19. The in-process loan for this $8 million of change is not in this table, because it's not at the end of the project, and then the amortization schedule and payment schedule hasn't been set. So I think June 30. So that's why that future debt service obligations are excluded from that. But once we get to the end of that project, that will be added to that. 20 is the budgetary schedule that I mentioned. We get back for the single audit piece of this. The opinions are similar, but we're issuing an opinion on something just a little bit different. So this one, we're reporting on the compliance for each major program, on the internal control over the compliance and things with uniform guidance. In our opinion, the college complied in all material specs with the types of compliance requirements referred to above have a direct and material effect on each of its federal award programs. Then the next opinion is our opinion on the internal control of the financial reporting, compliance, and other matters based on the audit of the financial statements in accordance with government auditing standards. So, although we're providing an opinion on the compliance, the results of our test disclose no instances of compliance or matters required to be reported under government auditing standards. We get to page 26, and that's a schedule of your federal expenditures. So those are all the federally sourced money that has come into college and been expended during the last fiscal year. Then the last one is the schedule of finding and question costs. Really, the only thing I like to point out here, as long as there's nothing in the first couple sections, which there's not. Major programs that were selected for testing were the student financial aid cluster, and then the coronavirus state and local youth funds. So those are the two single audit programs that we tested. For example, we did not have to do that second one. So that'll save a little bit of work on their part, our part, and a little bit of money. Then it's only one award program instead of two. Any questions on any of the financial statements or any of the reports that I want to be?
Well, first of all, Kara, thank you for getting those 2 points in there in the Jen's bar, and hopefully this year we'll get the 3rd one in on for our reconciliation.
I've said this every year, but from when I started to today, it's been nothing but progressing in one direction. In my first couple of years, that back page was pretty extensive. And there was a lot more journal entries being made. And then each year it's progressively gotten better. So it's one of those things where you can't do everything at once, because one of the resources, time and personnel, but I greatly appreciate her effort, knowing that she's doing this, 1, because you're asking her to, 2, we're asking her to, but also, I just really think that she wants it right, wants it done, at the end of the day, so I greatly appreciate her effort for the last couple of years.
And over.
Don't blame me, Kara. It's not me. It's.
Well,
But you know, what they say, it all runs downhill and the first stop is there.
He has done fantastic. Carrie's given some help, Josh, other folks, but I mean, Kara. We can trust our financial information now like we've never been able to.
Been a huge change in the last 8 years.
I have a probably stupid financial question, maybe you can really answer this, but in a non-profit organization like this, what does the depreciation balance sheet provide any tax?
Ask the question one more time.
The depreciation
Yeah.
that's shown in here, because I'm assuming that's just this year, that's not a. Or is it just shown for?
That it's necessarily that valuable of information. It's just, you know, part of the generally accepted accounting principles that you have to follow that method of accounting.
Testing is, you know, from a financial reporting standpoint, you're required to present information on governmental work based on GASB, government work on time standards. But basically what they want to know is if you go out and expend money, we want to know how long you have economic benefit from whatever you purchased. So that's why that asset goes on the books, because you have that asset for 5 years, 10 years, 40 years. And then so they want to match the expense side of it to when you're actually utilizing that resource. So you're utilizing that over the course of 40 years, 10 years. So that's essentially what depreciation is. You recognizing you are using an asset for your economic benefit is what they're saying.
And it does,
Has no tax benefit per se, because it's a benefit.
it does come in more and more. We're seeing it asked on grant applications,
Yep.
that information. We do get asked from some of the legislators, some of the stuff through the state regions.
And, you know, when you're talking about that type of stuff, like applying for grants, you're applying for that type of stuff. Somebody goes out and spends $8 million on a building, and it's recorded in your income statement on 1 year, and you show a $7 million loss. And you say, we need money, we lost $7 million. They're gonna say, well, that's not accurate, because you didn't really use it. You expended the money, you know, it's a cash outflow, but it's not a true expense. So, like I said, a lot of grant applications, they need to know that type of thing. It's also a cash flow. Obviously, the depreciation is a non-cash item. But that's kind of how it breaks down.
And it gives us a bit of a barometer towards deferred maintenance. I mean, it's not a perfect number, but that's been the big issue with the universities and most of the state entities in their buildings. I think last I saw, these deferred maintenance is behind by like $2 billion. Well, they're never going to catch up, but they've made changes where the funds they provide to the legislature for deferred maintenance at the universities has to be matched by what the universities put back basically in savings for that purpose. So there's ways we can use the data that we probably didn't use enough in the past.
That's a really good point, especially within a new building here, because you don't really expect a lot of maintenance coming for the next 5 years, 10 years. You know, but when you're looking at your balance sheet and all of a sudden you have a building that's fully depreciated, you know, okay, we're probably gonna start seeing yearly expense, maintenance expense popping up for some of these long-term fixed assets.
And, you know, we've used these guys for several years. And it's been a big benefit having that partnership. They understand us and the improvement suggestions, that teamwork, if you will. I'm not afraid to ask these guys questions throughout the year, get ideas as we get crazy ideas. So again, we appreciate that relationship. But nothing but positive knowledge. If the banker's happy, we're pretty good.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Last thing I'll say is, Jim, you both have my information. If this isn't a speak now or for everyone, questions that come up, you're bored at night, can't sleep, you decide to pull this out. I've got really
Yeah.
So, if something comes up, certainly shoot me an email and I will get back to you as soon as I can.
I think your number's still captured on my phone somewhere.
We do need the board to move to accept the audit report.
Look for a motion to accept the audit.
So move.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded to accept the audit report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Yes, thank you.
I think we set a record on time.
Yes,
Set a record.
I like it.
Today on that.
When that communication letter gets shorter and shorter.
It's still light out.
All right, we'll see everybody.
You.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, well, looks like next up is our faculty, oh, illustrious faculty senate.
All right, so now for the interesting part of the meeting. So again, you kind of have the flyer, so I'm just gonna kind of highlight a few of these things. The first one, Ellie Hansen, she was adjunct here for quite a while, and now full-time. And she actually worked with me out at Barton. Her husband Ed is actually helping with our cybersecurity. And what I've heard is he's got pretty superior math skills, with what I've heard. So he was one of my students too. The first few weeks up at MHS, so we're kind of look at the high schools here a little bit. At the high school at Manhattan, going pretty good so far. As you can see, Dorst and Ball have both said they have positive feedback. And I know at the Walmego Center, I had 45 students. I've got one online, so technically I've got 46 students from Walmego High School, which is good because most of them are returning students. I've got a few new ones. I don't know what the other gen ed departments are, but I was kind of figuring out my numbers, and just the math department, we have 134 students. So I think that's probably the highest numbers I've seen. And I know Darren Ortega, he's helping me with the Tech 1 math, and I'm hoping, cross my fingers, a few things go through, maybe another full-time math teacher. So that would be nice if we need that to have, because with adult ed and all the things coming around the bend with math pathways, probably something we're gonna have to look into. I mean, it's fun teaching double-digit classes, but yeah. So then we have Lisa, who got awarded a $500 scholarship focusing on children on the spectrum and other special needs. And I see this very beneficial for us as a college, because I know myself, I've taught a lot of students that have been on like the spectrum and stuff like that and been very successful in this college. I've gotten a lot of feedback from people outside that they've worked for about how prepared they were. And I think that is very important, going from here on out, because a lot of the students that I dealt with at Manhattan High School when I taught there, the special needs one were some of the best students I had. Usually they're some of the most motivated. They want to make a better life for themselves. So hopefully with that scholarship and stuff, she can kind of go a little farther with that. Welding, it started out at Fort Riley, and hopefully we'll have some success out there. Talking with Chris, I think we'll maybe start kind of pushing the gen eds in the fall. It's just one of those things that came up so fast, we didn't have time to get going, which actually for me, it helped because it took one of my classes away because I gave it to the adjunct that was going to teach out there. And he is a very good adjunct. And he works with security out at Fort Riley, but who knows, maybe we can kind of get some benefits, not only in the math world, but in security. Auto tech, as you can see, Alex is going to Florida for training down there, as well as Jaron heading to Kansas City. He's going to a training that is looking at diesel and electric technology. So with having 3 instructors there, you have a wealth of knowledge as far as like with the auto tech. I think we're one of the few, if not the only one that has 2 teachers with a bachelor's. And Jeff has almost got his bachelor's. So if you can say that your auto tech program has 3 bachelor degrees in it, I think that's pretty illustrious. Plumbing, our new instructor, Brian, and I don't know if are they gonna come speak one of these meetings coming up, Brian and Callie?
I'm sure they will.
Yeah, he'll be here, but just like this Brian, he's kind of got the same mentality as me, so I'm excited.
Scary.
Some reason Chris keeps running around the corner when he sees both of us coming up, hiding under his desk. But in the professional development, Ed, gotta feel bad for him. He's heading for Vegas to the International Builders Show. Actually, my wife and I were out there last year when they had it, and like the city was filled with construction people. And it's like one of the biggest meetings they have out there. And I've gotten some feedback from a couple of the casino workers of, yeah, they learn a lot of stuff, and they bring it back here, tell us while they're playing the slots. So if you want to go, I'm sure next board retreat, Vegas. Yeah. Jim, you know.
Keep going, Brian.
And then we got the home show, which again, every year, I know we always participate in that. Brian, our new instructor, along with Ed, they're going to be in attendance out there. And also Jason York, the business program instructor, he's going to have some student volunteers out there. EPD just started a new cohort. Ed, he's got, I think, is it on the board packet? So he's got some pictures on there from the work site. I know it was also on Facebook where he had pictures and stuff like that. So if you notice, one of the things that Rachel's been doing a lot, and I think you're helping with it too, is doing a lot more advertising out there as far as like on Facebook. And I've been impressed. Kudos to both of these guys and everybody who's in the marketing program, because I think our name is getting out there a lot more even now than, I mean, I know Jim's pushed it a lot since he came, but we just keep on rolling. For nursing, 2 new clinical adjuncts were hired. I'm sure Kim was pretty happy about that. And then I see the evening CNA classes, they're being held in Junction City. I tell you what, from experience, my daughter did her CNA, and going to KU now, it got her into like all the high level classes, and she'll really only be at KU for 1 year, and she's already starting her clinicals. So, and I think the biggest step was her doing her CNA through us. Mark, our instructor, amazing. It's funny because my daughter, when she was working CNA, she goes, "Well, Dad, I'm not feeling good. But Mark told me if I mean, I could be sick and leave, or I can stay home. If I don't go, somebody may die from me not being there." So he impounded that, the importance of how important their job is, and they take it to heart. And I see Mark do a lot of stuff with that. And then Easlyn graduated with a master's. And obviously, if you were at the graduation, she wasn't there because she was at her own graduation. And I think that speaks volumes to Kim and her staff of, we're trying to get the best teachers out there we can. Rachel and I started with some GED soft skill classes. We just kind of we're piloting it to see how it is. There's a lot of stuff coming around the bend, but one of the things we want to focus on is the soft skills. Because not only according to our mission statement, we want to make them productive in their life. Not just get their GED. Hopefully they take our classes, but they're also going to be a great asset to the community. For the GED, enrollment's pretty strong. I still haven't seen the ones from Colby. I need to work with Beth on that. But I know we've been working with Neosho now for a year. And they love it. They actually said that the students felt a lot better. The instructor said she's actually feeling somewhat confident in math, because she started out as a music and English teacher, and she got thrown into the math. So It'd be almost like putting Jim in front of them, so. Oh, did I say that out loud? All right, so. Evening ESL classes, as you can see, if you want to walk across there after the meeting, they're probably in class and they're basically filled to the brim. Hopefully it stays that way. We'll see how things go. But I know I know that there's a lot of people that are definitely benefiting from that. And you'll notice on there as well that they did the Manco, where they went to Manco and got a lot of great publicity for that. And I think I read what the next 2 semesters now we're going to be doing more classes with them. So again, kudos to Chris and especially Beth, along with the instructors. Okay. I know Beth works her butt off on this, so. Did rid of that, did that. So some of the student achievements and plans, I'll let you guys read through it, but those are kind of those things that hopefully you guys, when you're out in the public, you're like, okay, well, why am I on this board? Right there it is. Here's our students, here's the achievements we're getting, and you guys are definitely a big part of that. And then professional development. Dr. Greg Belcher came and he led a workshop. It was actually a great, it was a great presentation. I went to that and it hardly felt like I'd been there I think we were there for 2 hours. And actually it might have been 3 hours. I don't even remember. It was just, he made it very engaging. And another thing during the in-service that was very helpful, Andrew basically did a presentation on IT using that, or not IT, AI, thank you. You made letters. That's why I do math. But I actually used it today. I told the students, I said, okay, well, we're doing order of operations. Let me type into it, order of operations using at least 5 steps. And it popped up a bunch of problems, and that's what we used in class. And I think of the faculty, when we did it in here, it's funny because we had the tables out, and I think Andrew thought that'd be enough. We had chairs lined up all the way from that door, all the way to that door with faculty and staff that were in here. And then Chris, how many do you think were online? About 15?
16.
16. So, I mean, I think almost the whole college was here. Except Jim. So, but it was a very good presentation. And I think where in the future we're going to be going off to. Because I know one of the feedbacks I got from K-State, I talked to a guy that is a friend of mine, and he teaches teachers. And he said the worst thing about K-State is you have all these older professors that are not willing to, go on into the future. They got to stay back in the past. And he said it's so frustrating seeing them not moving forward and their students struggling from it. I think that's what we're not doing. So, any questions on that?
I get this every day in my
I
office.
know you do. Just a general question on the evening ESL. One of the things that's pointed out there is lack of public transportation. I know we do a lot of work with the city, county and all that. Has there been any discussion to improve evening transportation?
I mean, we have an agreement with ATA, but when K-State pulled out last summer, it's really hurt ATA.
Yeah, so they've redone the red route and are moved from that side of campus to this side of campus, and I believe it ends at 5:30 or 6 o'clock. And so a lot of students are using it to get here, and then they're getting their friend. I mean, they've managed to figure
Right,
it out.
I understand that.
Conversations I've asked, and a lot comes down to a lot of the resources.
Okay. Just a general question.
We are going to be talking with them along with Vern from the Community Foundation about transportation from here to the Child Care Accelerator Project and back, since we're be there.
Right.
And then we've brainstormed, we're no way committed, but we have our own little bus. At some point, we may have to figure out how do we provide some of that service to students.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome. See you tomorrow.
Yeah, I suppose.
If I see you first.
Shut my door. Mr. Josh.
Yeah, so on the facility side, we had the snow event that everybody dealt with. We had our hands full both here on main campus as well as Wamego. Like the facilities team did a really good job of trying to stay on top of it. It came down to more on where we pile all the snow to not take our whole parking lot up, so they got it all working with the snow removal company and then a lot of our own equipment to kind of get it all piled up, and then a week later, before the students came back, they started then loading those piles up and getting them off the parking lot because they're gonna take the rest of the winter into summer to totally melt. But everything, you know, the drainage, roofing, we didn't have any big issues other than dealing with all the snow and ice. No bad employee or student accidents or falls or anything, trying to keep slippage to a minimum. The RTC, the drainage project over here that went through as the RFP, that's fully going. If you drive by there right now, it's all torn up. Got a lot of the sidewalk up and doing a lot of the dirt work part now. They're doing their best to work with Cindy over there at the testing center and keep everybody up to date on the schedule so they can put down temporary walkways and getting access to that building, but it'll just be a little hectic for a little while, but they're moving quick on it. I imagine the next couple of weeks that'll wrap up quick. They haven't ran into any issues. Budget on that looks good, so I think that's gonna go well and wrap up nicely. Just this morning, one of the geothermal units over at the Wamego Center, Kim and some of the other staff over there discovered that it was leaking water everywhere. One of the elbows, old copper elbow, I guess just over time, had enough grit and sand run through it that it wore a hole through the side and started dumping water everywhere. So they got a contractor over there, got it shut down, got the flooring, that's all cleaned up. We're running just on one unit until they can get back later this week to do the repair. But the unit itself is fine, so hopefully it's just minimal cost to get that piping all redone.
And that only affected building one, the leak, right?
Correct, yeah, so the majority of our student body and classes going over there in the second building, so this was all in the first building, which is mainly right now just affecting some office space.
Small question. When we went over, was that building 1 or building?
That was. Where did we do?
You were in building 2 for the meeting.
Huh?
Building 1 is the one closest to the highway.
Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, moving away from Highway 24, even though we have those. Let's see, the other thing I had, so when we're talking about Wamego, if you remember quite a while back now, we started designing and try to get a better sign over there, which we partnered and worked with WTC on. And I have kind of a rendering. What is this? Go away, go away.
You got an ad.
There we go. Okay, so it's gonna look something like this, only minus the red will actually stop here at the end of the sign. So it'll be red powder coated behind the sign to make it pop, but then the color of it will actually stop here. And that'll be remainder of just the brick. You can see here powered by WTC. Reminder on that, they partnered with us and agreed to actually fund the payment for this sign over a 3-year deal. So that's final plan set and drawn, and the work should be started within the next couple weeks. And that's pretty much it on the facilities update. Any questions on any of that?
I have a question on the snow days. Who makes that call for you guys? I mean, obviously it was awful, but they just like Saturday, you're like, well, school on Monday.
Well, we were the first one to call off, and it's somebody else tied to education in this region. Called me right away and said, "Why'd you call off so early?" I said, "Have you looked outside? I'm not a diehard. Oh, you have to get to class and put your life in danger." No. And it was, no one's moving for a day or two. And so one, get the word out. We were open, but no classes. We hadn't even started in service. So it really was only affecting some staff. And by Tuesday, when we called off, we let those staff know if you can work from home, do that. I was doing several meetings, but Russ and the other guy, Alan, and I mean, they needed time without us around to clear out what they could. And, we got here Wednesday, a lot of us got here Wednesday and it was still a mess, but they'd been working nonstop for days. And then we had the bigger crew come in the weekend before classes started to get stuff really out of the way, because with our Bobcat, there's a limit to what we can do. From a perspective of class days, we didn't miss any class days. The classes at the high school, it will depend if we have to make up those, depending on if they have to make up days at the end of their schedule or whatever. But as far as any academic impact, it was ideal because it wasn't going to affect anything. So let people stay safe, get the roads cleared off. It took me 2 days to get my car dug out of my driveway. So. About it. It was dangerous walking around here for a while. This drive on the other side of the building over here gets no daylight, and it was an ice rink. I mean, you could have played NHL hockey out there. And Russ and Alan did a heck of a job, and I don't know who else, getting that cleared off. I thought that no way would that even melt before April. It was a total mess.
As far as expenditures for all that.
Yeah, we budgeted in so much a year for snow
Sure.
removal, salt and all that stuff. We're probably at the top end.
Okay.
Hope the rest of this year a little better, but yeah, it took a lot.
Okay.
Melt, ice melt, but yeah, we do kind of base that off of the last couple year average budget. And this is probably on the top end for sure.
And after coming through COVID, even from the instructional side, everything's online, at least some components. So we may close the campus, but almost all the teachers post a message on our webs or in Canvas on their courses for what students can do while we're shutting down. So even for a tech college, that's pretty hard, but we've adapted to that probably better than most other education institutions. Okay. One last thing I'll add, Josh and I met with Dan from BBN, and we're not committing to anything. But with what we're learning with AI, what we're learning with space, I don't want to invest a ton of money in the regional testing center area. And we're going to continue to probably have issues even after we fix drainage, but those modulars don't have a huge lifespan. So we brought in Dan and just said, give us some feedback on how we could proceed with thinking about some renovations in the main building. Because phase 2 originally was going to be in the corner. Well, that's not going to happen for a while. The price tag on that's pretty steep. We got to get this paid for first. But at the same time, we do anticipate some growth. So, and we're going to spend probably no more than $5,000 at the most for them to do some work on what ifs, looking at how could we do some of the renovation, utilize our own programs to do some of it. And what would be our options moving things around, which would include getting the testing center reconstituted so that we could blow that thing up. It's just to do some planning. It's not to do any real stuff. Okay.
BHE expenditure report. We're getting to the tail end of these, where we won't have to do many more of these. I wanted to point out on this one, since that looks like a pretty hefty pay hit that hit late in the game, and what that was is the tail end of the furniture RFP finally invoiced through. So the remainder of the new furniture hit on that one. The other smaller one was just some remnants of some subs that were cleaning up some invoices, finishing up some signage. There was some even a little bit of site work, the tail end, and some door invoices. There could be one more of those with some little cleanup tail end items that we're just finishing up, but we did get confirmation a couple days ago, Kara, from BHS, that we should be pretty well wrapped up.
And the heated grid in the front worked. So back to the weather. I wish we had those everywhere.
When you say donation, you're talking about the foundation.
Correct. We've got a sheet to pull up here.
We're gonna pull that up for you. Yeah, go ahead, pull it up.
Is that this one?
So kind of anticipating right now we have just under $750,000 in the foundation for the building, so. Looking at payments and income projections. And Harry and I are working on trying to build more of that, but we're in pretty good shape overall right now. I think total assets you go down to the bottom in the foundation is about 1.7 million. It's been better than 10 years. Any other questions?
Ready?
Yeah. Okay, so as promised, here are the Q2 actuals in the first column, just right next to the annual budget, and then the far right column, you'll just see the percentage of that either revenue that we've received or expenses that we've expended so far, just so you can see where we're at as far as being on track with our budget. Honestly, overall, we're looking pretty good. You can look through each line as you'd like, but if you look at the bottom, we're basically we expended about 50% of everything, so we're on track. There are like some areas I know we're going to bring in more interest than we had originally anticipated, mainly just because we wanted to estimate that low just in case rates started dropping. But so far, we've already brought in as much as we thought we would bring in throughout the entire year. Plus, we'll have the interest from the CD that'll get deposited next month. But yeah, other than that, if you look at our expenses, pretty much everything is right at about 50%. I think the only thing that we're really over budget was just the building, because whenever we did exhaust the remainder of the loan, we got a new estimate of what it would take to finish the project, and unfortunately, it just came in higher than what we thought it was going to. But luckily, there's been some other areas that have come in lower budget or just some revenues that are going to help. Still looking like we're on track.
So while you're looking at that, let me give you an update related to the federal freezing of expenditures. So when I saw that news last night, I thought, okay, tomorrow's calendar is shot to hell. And I started getting Teams messages from senior admin early this morning. As the day went on, more news, and the American Council on Education actually put on a webinar this afternoon at 2:00, open to even their non-members. We're not a member, but I signed up for the webinar, and there were like 800 people on this thing. Bottom line, we have been assured by the feds, federal financial aid VA benefits are not affected. Basically, anything that gets paid directly to a person, even if we're the pass-through, is fine. However, payments that would come to the organization and are not paid out to an individual are currently frozen. For us, it's fairly minimal. Perkins funds, because that does come from the feds to the state. So right now, second semester Perkins funds are frozen, and adult ed funds. I think we're looking at the estimate of around 75,000 total right now that's frozen. Well, we can adapt if we have to. It's anticipated they'll start releasing the freeze by February 8th. However, late today, a federal judge stopped the freeze. Said, you can't do that, Mr. President. So we're in, this is going to be fun, a little roller coaster for a while, but the big thing is payments directly to students are not affected. Medicaid payments, Social Security payments to individuals are fine. The state is not getting federal Medicaid payment. State, if it holds, is going to impact the state, school system, K-State with research grants, UGH. We're pretty good shape. ACE did recommend that we put together an impact report that we could share with our congressional delegation. So we will work on that. We are concerned about some of the new executive orders, especially impacting adult ed and our ESL population. There's some areas in the state, Chris could give you more information if you need it. They've been hit hard already. We're very concerned about a lot of those people. And not everybody in ESL is an immigrant by any means. So some things to be concerned about there, but overall, we're coming through pretty good.
My organization here doing a lot of this today.
I hate to think what was going on at K-State. Good time to be workforce education.
Listen, I might have misunderstood, but I thought you said that. Spensed on.
Yeah, so it's under the Advanced Tech Center line on the budget, so we had just estimated that it would be 558,000 to essentially finish out the project, but right now we're at 615,000, and Josh can probably expand a little more on that too.
Yeah, so that's what, after we expended the loan, we had BHS try to put together a combo of remaining invoices and to their side, they're trying to capitalize that together, but they're still in the middle of the work. And we came up with that 558, 822. We're now past that. We've hit over. There's just been more things to come up to get it finished. And that's why I mentioned though that reaching out to them yesterday that we're essentially almost done now.
The 615 doesn't take them.
No, still well under that by like 1.7 actually. No, it's just what them to estimate what it was gonna take to finish where were we at that time when the loan was finally exhausted out. So no, we're still under the contract, so. Yep.
We've absorbed it.
Yeah.
Any other questions on that? Need more screens so you can.
There's a lot today. Academics.
Yeah, I think as far as the new faculty introductions, the only faculty you haven't met yet are Brian Braun and Callie Hansen. And unfortunately, Brian got sick today, so that's one reason why he's not here, but they both will be here at the February meeting, so you guys can meet them then. We are still for an electrical instructor and another HVAC instructor. As far as program updates go, we've been working on the program realignment for construction tech, so we have almost got that complete.
That's due to state alignment.
Yes, the KBOR program alignment, yes. I got the new instructor, Brian Braun, for plumbing, has been working on getting me equipment lists and everything he's going to need for that program. HVAC has been rocking and rolling. We've got welding, like we mentioned before, starting at Fort Riley and a cohort here. He just started their new cohort. So we have been in the midst of a lot going on, so. Otherwise, the academic calendar for 25-26 is attached. And this matches the state's current calendar for 25-26. I will say that K-State and KU are the only ones in the state of Kansas that have this particular calendar. The rest of the universities have a little bit different calendar, so I don't know if that's reminiscent of K-State possibly changing midstream like they did last year or not, but as of a couple days ago when I checked, they still were sticking with this, so wanted to at least present the 25-26 academic calendar as it currently stands for you guys to review.
KU and K-States will change due to Big 12 issues.
So I think I'm gonna bring up a question that goes back with what Brad asked on the snow days. If that would have occurred during in-class sessions, would that have been much of an impact on our students and faculty, you know, as far as?
You know, it depends program by program and where they are, but again, we have worked with them so that something like that happens. They're gonna give an assignment based off MATC online,
Mhm.
because we really don't want to put people at risk. We have a lot of people driving, employees as well as students.
And we have enough
Totally
seat
agree.
time factored in that like if we have a
Right.
snow day or two that. We absolutely
That
can't
wouldn't be a.
We're okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a little bit of cushion before we have to start
Yeah,
trying to make up time or days, so.
That's why a lot of our gen ed stuff went to hybrid, so that way we can do that online component. As opposed to in our curriculum, we hardly have any face-to-face classes anymore, it's all hybrid.
Any questions on calendar? We need
go
to,
back up to the.
I think we need to approve, yeah.
January 19th, so then we get January 19th off.
yeah, it's not quite true. Come back before that.
Okay.
But so we do need approval of the
We do.
revised calendar.
Looking for a motion to approve the academic calendar, please. Been moved. I have a second. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign, please. Passed.
Up on that.
David. So I'll do a brief introduction. I've got David with me today to talk to you all about our new Workforce Solutions Initiative. The brief background on this is Jim's big push in the last couple of years now, is how do we think outside that traditional model? We obviously have credit bearing programs, and those are great. They don't fit for everybody, especially for a working professional. So we come up now with basically these three legs that make up Manhattan Tech. You have your traditional college programs, you have Workforce Solutions, which David will talk about, that is really on that, helping out the businesses in our area, working with them for customized training, credit or non-credit. And then we have that new Tech Plus program as well that really helps out the individual. And so I'll let David go through all of this. I'll have you ignore, there's a section here on marketing. We wanted to present to you all the marketing strategic plan. We're going to do that next month. So if you want to get a jump start, you can look through our slides, but we'll do that presentation in February. Tonight is just going to be Workforce Solutions and Tech Plus with David, our outreach coordinator.
Well, like Chris was saying, I think this is really a great opportunity for the college to reach out to more learners. I mean, I would love to see a college a year from now that's doubled in size and learners, but that doesn't cost as much as, what a traditional college campus would take. The other part too is this is also a great, with all the financial talk today, a great opportunity for more revenue to the college. But this is what it looks like. So what we want to do is we want to be able to partner with businesses to be able to provide, really help them find their skill gaps and help them fill them with education. So we have like standard trainings that we can provide for businesses, as well as custom trainings, which is what I'm really working on pushing through. So I'm having conversations with employers. I've had conversations with for-profit, nonprofit, and civic employers to talk about what are the challenges they're facing right now, and how can we solve that specific challenge with very specific training, whether that's welding, if we're talking about Excel training, if we're talking about what have you. We know we have the subject matter experts here, and we can help provide that training. Tech Plus, like Chris mentioned, is really geared toward reaching the individual, but it's also we also have the tools there to organize our classes, and we have a learning management system through that we're going to be able to provide better education for working professionals. And then we also have this beautiful facility here, and we love to see people in it. So any business that needs to have a space for a board meeting, or if they need to have a space for a training, we have that. We have this campus. We have the one we provide. Scroll down a little bit.
Hang on, Dave, real quick
Yes.
question. You mentioned OSHA 10. Has there been any interest in OSHA 30 for like supervisors, foreman level type?
Not yet. I haven't
yet.
got much interest on OSHA
Okay.
30. OSHA 10 has been the primary.
Sure.
Driver, and if you can actually take that, anybody can sign up for that and take that today if they wanted to. Well, not today. They could sign up for it today and get registered in a couple of days. But they would have access to it online.
Okay, thanks.
But yeah, great question.
Thank you, Brett, for being our pilot. Okay, we learned a lot. Slick. Enjoyed doing it.
So this is what we're doing with instructors. So the way that this is actually working. I'm setting up meetings with employers, and I'm having a discovery meeting, figuring out what their challenges are, figuring out what they need. And then once I kind of narrow down what close to what they're looking for, I'll bring in the subject matter expert, and these are our workforce solutions instructors. And we're able to provide a consultation to really narrow down specifically what they need. Because if it's welding, we can't teach a whole welding class. They can come to the college and get that for credit. But if they're looking for some specific processes, if they need some work on into thick welding, if they need some work on those different components, we can teach that. And that's what we want to do with this program. But we help provide that consultation, and then we also have our workforce solutions instructors who we contract with, and we'll get to that here in a second. But they help us develop and deliver the training. We also provide evaluations back to the employer to let them know how employees did, and we could even provide recommendations if there's something that they needed in addition to that. But here's what we're doing with our workforce solutions instructors. Who are they? They are our faculty. They are people that maybe don't even work here, but are really good at what they do in the field. We're bringing them through, and I have a roster of workforce solutions instructors on my end. Contract with, this is all contract business that's outside of those, especially those who work here for the college. This is outside of their role. And so we do provide compensation for that. We also provide for all of our faculty and staff that bring in referrals. We provide them with $100 referral bonus for that. And that's basically the model that I'm using, is I'm contracting with our instructors to be able to provide this education to employees. So last thing, and my ask is, if you are interested in becoming a workforce solutions instructor, right, that might be something that you'd love to be able to come back and assist us with. That you feel more than welcome to visit that link there. It's not a link, it's a QR code, and sign up for that. But also, and my big ask here is going to be, if you know also any other potential instructors or anybody that would be interested in exploring what skill gaps they may have and how Manhattan Tech can provide that education piece, feel free to put them in contact with me. My email's right up there. So that's all I got.
Questions or? This is the start of it. Eventually this will turn into, we're gonna issue internal certificates. We're now looking at micro credentialing, all those other aspects to give even more benefit to anyone who takes these. The goal would be, let's say we have an Excel class and it has 3 different levels. We'll break that into 3 different classes that are smaller bites for people to take. And as they take those, if they get all 3 and they decide, I really want to go after this degree, they can come here, work with an academic advisor, provide those certificates, and we can do credit for prior learning. So now we're saving them a little bit of money. They're actually getting a head start into whatever degree, but they got started through an alternative path.
I mean, that's really great and innovative and an interesting approach to have that industry engagement and hands-on experience, and you'll learn a lot from that. A couple questions that I have is, one, how are you vetting the folks that aren't internal that are providing these trainings? And what type of qualifications have you set up for that? And then also, how do you prevent someone from saying, well, if I can do this through here, why don't I just do it on my own and I can charge my own fee and not go through the college? Which you just explained could help, show the employer the benefit, but making sure that there's some protection there in keeping your materials and everything is proprietary to you and not able to just be like often taken off on their own.
Those are great questions.
And I can speak to that because I've been working out how we're going to qualify instructors and that part. we have a little bit more flexibility in terms of the credentialing side, but we are pretty much gonna go through a very similar process that we do with the faculty. It's gonna be asking for their experience. It's gonna be asking for what certifications do they have, especially when it comes, and then also what exactly are they able to teach and not able. So, especially, and so very similar to how we process our instructors that come in, faculty, is gonna be the process. In terms of protecting our training. The interesting thing about especially when it comes to technical training, a lot of it is very hands-on. So if they want to go train it, they can go for it, but they're gonna get more ROI going through us than if they go try to invent something, especially when they don't have the experience teaching, like our instructors do. And so what makes ours a little bit different, we're not always putting together a whole curriculum or a whole. They're not leaving necessarily with a whole put together curriculum because of the reality of hands-on learning. It is us bringing instructors that are experts in their field and showing them, teaching them, demonstrating, giving them time to practice, giving them feedback, which I think is the important part, is getting that real-time feedback from an instructor of how they're doing. And then that's something that you can't just invent. It's something people like Manhattan Tech can.
I could see us getting into non-compete agreements, things like that. I think part of it, our ability to, for instance, with BHS, they're working a deal that Josh and Susie worked with them on. They're doing training out here almost every Friday. So part of it is just access to our space and labs, but it increases that employer engagement. What I said to our employees at in-service when we went through this is, while we have the college side, these other two components, think of us as a small business, but the college is taking care of the paperwork. So as a teacher, you're focusing on the training and not all the other academic stuff because we're not doing credit. So we're trying to make that attraction of this is slimmed down training without all the academic baggage in a way.
I like, Stephanie, I think that's good questions. My additional question on hers would be, what is the measure of success?
That's,
We can be happy, but where is it we can say this is successful or quite achieve what we want to.
and we're gonna design some of that after we go a little ways with this to see. I don't want to have too many preconceived notions that we need to change. What I've said to our gang consistently is, how can we do these things that relates to our mission? Because you have to be careful in our business about unrelated business income. But this again, this is workforce education of our own foundation as well as GMCF. How can we use this to make us less dependent on traditional public funding? But one of the metrics is going to be what kind of revenue is this bringing in that is building up our ability to pay this off quicker, do other things in different ways, so that federal financial aid, state appropriations, yes, we're always going to have them, but we don't have to always rely on them for that because we have this coming in. When I share this with my colleagues at other institutions, they look at me like you're nuts. You're a college. Yeah, we're a college, but we're more than a college. As long as we stay true to that mission.
Finance, number of students or again, I'm not trying to get it down to where we brought out, if the number was 5 and we had 4, whether we're not successful. That's not what I'm getting at.
Right. Part of this is several of you were at the Regional Growth Summit the other day. The local chamber has asked us, and we've given them a draft. They're interested, how can we contract straight with the city or other entities on workforce that either expands an existing business or a new business? And how do we get into that as that contractor of record? And it might not always be us doing the training, but again, how do we act as that business entity? And I haven't had a chance to talk to Stephanie much, but I think that as we work on that with some of the stuff you're working on, there's that natural connection. That's what I want to go to, is how can we do more and more directly with an organization? It may not even be a business. It could be a government agency or something. So I think it's not so much the participants, it's how first, I think it's more important, who are we networking with and partnering with for training.
I would just to add to answer your question and how I'm looking at it is, we're still in the pilot phase. We did Tech Plus last semester. We're doing Workforce Solutions now. I'd really like to have 1 year to establish a baseline. So if we can get 5 businesses to have a partnership with us where we're covering our cost, that's a good, I'd like to go off of that. And obviously the financial pieces of it too, but, and then continue and say, okay, I want to see another 5 after that.
You know, Fort Riley's gonna have several deployments. And I shared that with Chris the other day. I said, okay, we're gonna have to reimagine how we market, promote at Fort Riley. The good news is with those deployments, we don't have to stand up as much equipment and labs out there as fast. But what do we do in changing our marketing and promotion to work with keeping the families there? So, you know, what can we do related to, like, for business? All of our stuff is online. Here comes the childcare accelerator. What can we do related to some of those, I'll say, small business opportunities, whether it's credit or non-credit, to keep those spouses and the kids here while the soldier is being deployed? Because if the spouse is happy in the area, when the soldier gets ready to retire, that's a big factor. Thank you. Patterson.
We're going to be providing the board with periodic updates on our grant activity and where we're at with those. We got our first allocation for the Patterson grant at the end of the year. And right now what we're doing is we're in the process of recruiting for our immersive technology coordinator. That was posted on our website, and that's really a critical position because that is the person that's going to be coordinating, working with schools, working with teachers, and doing the on-site training. So the job has been posted. We've gotten some applicants. We're always looking for more applicants, but we do have them, and we're hoping to fill that position quickly. Also, you probably noticed in your packet that Andrew is now position change as the Director of Emerging Technologies. And even before he started that position on January 1, he was working hard around this grant because he has been leading the coordination and vetting of software applications, associated hardware, and lab configuration. So he's really helping us get that strong start so that when the immersive technology person can then go alongside him, it's going to be something that will allow us to move to that coordination phase. We have been exploring the Fostering Residential Advancement through Mentoring and Education Grant. The FRAME grant. They all have acronyms. But what we're finding and we're uncovering, and I think we've done this with a few grants, is what it does provide us with is a learning opportunity of, hey, these are some other ways we could partner with an organization or some other ideas that we have. So we'll see where it all rolls with FRAME grant development, but we are working with some of our construction-related strategic partners, and something good will happen out of it, regardless of whether a grant's submitted or not.
It's an effort to build more affordable workforce housing. It's the frame part is through the State Department of Commerce, but the restrictions are probably not possible for us to achieve. But we're taking the idea because another technical college in the state took a similar idea, ran it through Patterson, and got it funded that way. So there's less red tape, more resources, ways for us to have the impact. So sometimes it's better to wait and take a different route than open everything that's in front of you.
And one additional item, because the Department of Commerce is fast becoming my favorite friend in terms of funding, we did apply for a grant called the Jobs for Innovation and Training Grant, GIST, in December. And it was, and our model for this was an employment capacity building grant for our industrial maintenance technology program. And the nature of the grant was that we would partner with Manco, and thank you, Chris, for helping establish this availability of Manco to serve as a partner in this grant. We looked at Mr. Jones, and we're hoping that if we do get this grant, that 24 individuals during the 1-year grant period from Manco would be trained in elements of the IMT curriculum as needed. As well, the grant ask, it was a matching grant, so I always want to go for big money, but sometimes when you have a matching cash grant, you have to realize what your limitations are. It was a $79,000 grant, and we would provide $79,000 match for that grant, largely in the form of materials and equipment was the ask for the GIST grant. So we'll keep you posted on it.
Joshua Jefferson.
Sure. We have met more with the apprenticeship related staff at Commerce. Yeah.
I'll take a note. I always forget to go back to my notes. They might remind me. Well, I got 7,000 actions in here.
Do we need to take a break before we keep going, or?
I put that up to the group. Probably wouldn't hurt for a bio break. Reconvene at 7 p.m.
We got a little bit more to do.
Starting the year off heavy.
Action, sir.
Needs to be in the evening.
Setting the table for a late night or two.
I need to end Canada.
Setting the table for a late nighter.
The day, so. There's not what's going on.
We're all just gonna crash at Susie's place.
She really is.
Oh, you're here, so.
Is that new? Been here since day one.
Yeah.
You're gonna have like
I'll
a
sit over there, maybe.
like, I'm not sure.
I didn't know if you wanted to finish out, so that's why I showed up.
The light's even adjustable. I really want to do
The lights are adjustable.
the one behind it, you can dim it down.
I didn't have much choice.
Yeah.
Had to have that.
Go in.
We got a house that the electrician sold us on.
You gotta get up early tomorrow, Ken?
Sits right underneath.
What do you say?
You gotta
Station.
get up early tomorrow for some reason?
Uh-huh.
And obviously, the Christmas lights with it, change the color for, different holidays. But it's so specific that, like soffit lighting where you put it for windows or whatever. You can tell it, hey, tonight I'm gonna do Christmas lights, and then tomorrow night, right here, you're gonna.
So specific to location?
Yeah, so it looks like soffit lighting in it.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's really cool. Yeah, that sounds pretty nice. I don't like hanging Christmas lights.
Right.
Or you light it up for Halloween.
Yeah, dude. You did any out of the business, what they call it.
Last time.
I got chastised.
Like just not a. Raise a bad scene before. Does not have a positive connotation. It does not. Like, oh, doesn't sound good.
Shut the door on anybody. Whack you in the face, that wouldn't be very nice. Right. I'm just walking in circles. I went to go get ice.
Did you go get it out of HVAC? Did you go to HVAC and go get it?
I went to the Sonic ice.
Oh,
Good ice.
okay.
Easy
Okay.
ice.
Well,
The kids call it Sonic ice.
yeah.
The students.
Alan's pretty proud of his ice maker, so.
Is he good?
Yeah.
I live with it.
Yeah, there's an ice maker down at HVAC.
Oh, there you go. We'll have to ask Charlie.
Yeah, ask him about the ice maker.
Yeah, if you put some
That wasn't even that aggressive of salt.
Ooh,
Are you really gonna try these?
yeah. I've done it before. Green onions.
Oh, yeah. Gonna stick them in a pot in her house.
I'm just gonna put them under the grow lights.
They never get hurt in the toilet.
See, that's all. You're the big ol' office, you could have a.
But, oh, I just keep plants in my office. Oh,
So the green onions that we use for the chili, we're gonna grow them.
we're gonna regrow.
I'm buying it now. It's a dump.
Put it, we literally put it on that chair.
It was right here when I sat down. I put it there, it was over there and I was like, oh, let's not forget that.
We put it on the corner.
He saw it before. I made sure he realized it was over on his chair in the timeout corner.
Like been chewed up too. What's going? Nice chili there, sir. We're gonna.
Might not have
You time.
We're gonna help you feel it and give you a name.
Those two very crisp. Yours is less sweet.
Oh, I know. Gonna put back in.
Give me a beat up. I think I got caught in the machine a couple times. Like skid of the claw.
Brian.
The back of it.
It's probably,
Chewed up.
yeah, because I've thrown it around the room a couple times.
Was it? Probably thrown it at Brian or something.
Yeah.
You gotta do that. No.
Cookie.
One
He
direction.
wasn't mindful about peppers. Hey.
Serving my way to make editorial recommendations. Like
I'm praying you know that.
office, in our office, says employee.
How much I love it here, but I'm leaving in a year and a half.
Have one of these that say.
The way it is.
Extra do that.
Those two issues.
Extra holder.
So you know the VR trailer. I know. So I'm trying to turn it that way down, but you know what they have? I guess junction has.
Different.
Okay.
Beveled.
You get.
Beveled.
Fancy.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get me more, just to see what they're using.
And keep asking. Do I have those yet? Do I have those?
And then he claimed
Okay.
that like mine just disappeared.
Okay. By you now. Back in the corner.
Turn it around too.
No.
You just take it off.
These jacks. They're vicious.
Controls all the money, so you don't mess with it at all.
They're my travel buddies for a few days, I guess. I don't want to.
But I started doing it. Like surprise. It's frozen. No more.
Hey, I do good on my
That one
budget.
got chewed up too. I
I
don't
know
know
what I'm
extra what.
under and what I anticipate,
Why would
so
you-
people can steal from my budget.
Yeah, because you're like, okay, I want to take $10 from this budget and.
Easy. Sorry.
I've got it. Taking me too long to get there. but
First one is
I got
general
it.
executive attachment
I'm
10.
so sorry, ma'am. Make you do that extra work.
Went out.
Comes from me, I report compliance, but we've got some information there, but this is one of the
Cause I'm out now.
required monitoring reports to the board on a periodic basis. That I've stayed within my bounds. College faculty and staff have as well, and we're. I think the important one is, well, they're all important, but number 2 there with the open climate decision making. I keep reminding the folks to disagree with me, be skeptical. I get a kick out of sometimes they bring something up that they don't think I will probably favor and they start apologizing. If they don't apologize, give it to me straight. We've got to have that constant interaction. For instance, that frame grant,
meeting the state requirements look very difficult for us, but the idea can be taken, like I said, and go to a different funding source to make it more possible for us to have success. So there's a lot of collaboration and conversation that way that really makes us effective. You want to scroll on down when you can. Budgeting, as you know, we're in pretty good shape, good audit report. Not yet, they have to approve the executive constraint.
My speed reading wasn't keeping up with the speed of the scroll.
Part three, I thought you read these before the meeting.
Oh, hey.
Let's see. What she-
As a reminder, could you go back to 3 and 4?
Yes.
You see there in capital letters, the word ends. The
Mhm.
next item we're gonna talk about relates to what are our results, so. Be glad to answer any questions or.
So one on here on the financial conditions. Kara, do you think we will be able to get in full Genzabar by the end of this calendar year?
I mean, we took a look at it. It's the bank reconciliations,
Mhm.
and we even met with a Genzabar rep, set up this whole timeline of when we would want it accomplished, and I think essentially we didn't hear from them again, and so I don't know if they're, and I know Josh reached back out to him, so we can try and start the whole process again. The biggest issue was essentially, we would love to say, hey, this year in, fiscal year 26, we want to start using bank recs, start at zero,
Sure.
and that's what we want to do. But we've been told that that's not possible and that we have to start 20 years ago and clear transactions one by one. And so
Oh.
that's been the whole.
Okay, so it's the preloading part of it to get it to where we are today. A lot of data.
Yeah, and there's no way we can get that done in a few months.
No.
So if, with the support of the board, what we will do is work on how could we implement that? What kind of lead time do we need?
Okay.
And hopefully with enrollment growth, revenue growth, how do we expand her area with more staff? But frankly, that's what it's gonna need.
So by the end of this quarter, could we have an idea on that, on how we could expand into that?
Let's say at the August board meeting, because we've got to wait and see the state budget,
Okay.
federal issues before I want to make too many commitments.
Well, and this is one of those where, you've probably seen by now with all the requests the board has brought forward, we've been able to do.
Oh, absolutely.
This is just one of those that it's more complicated to then even explain that all the inner workings behind it and, but yeah, I mean,
And, I wouldn't even be opposed to, is there a place that we can outsource some of that raw data transition?
The issue is if that person doesn't have an understanding of higher education,
Right.
it's more work. I think if we can pull it off, it's more, when can we afford a full-time person?
That does that.
and I think that's maybe where we were trying to head with Genzabar is they do have a services team that's not part of your annual contract or support, but that, and, we just didn't have any luck. We keep getting new reps and they've had a lot of turnover and turmoil going on there, but I think it's pretty, it seems better lately, so we probably just need to revisit it, start with a new rep,
Yeah.
Okay.
start the whole process and we'll run it.
Okay.
So we'll give you a progress report in August.
Thank you.
We do need board action on this monitoring report and compliance.
I'll be looking for a motion to approve the audit report or this audit. So moved. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Next is achievement of ends, which Kim Withroder is here to dive you through all sorts of data and what it means.
I mean, you've already looked at data today, so you might as well look some more. This is an annual assessment report to show you a little bit of the ends. So looking at our mission and vision, are we meeting those goals for everyone? So if you scroll on down. We don't like it index. And we can scroll back past that. This provides context, next page. Thanks. This is an assessment overview and our plan, and that's how this report is organized. It's organized around the assessment plan that assessment committee puts together. There are four main components. You have core abilities that's working on those general education outcomes that we expect every student to have. We expect all of our students to be able to communicate orally and in writing, as well as be able to do quantitative literacy and critical thinking problem solving. We measure our technical programs, and that's a lot of what you'll see in this report as well. Looking at the number of completions in a given year, the credentials, job placement, and earnings. Looking at indirect student measures, so this is going to be more satisfaction components. So program evaluations, course evaluations from students, and then the student satisfaction surveys. How do they feel things outside of their courses have gone at MATC? Co-curricular is looking at those co-curricular components. Are we helping students engage? Are we providing some enrichment activities in developing their leadership?
Before you go on, go back. So that technical programs quadrant on the top right, that is where Wallet Hub gives us the #1 ranking. Job placement and the earnings. That's where we knock it out of the park.
And all these line up with K-War TEA outcome metrics as well. So that way we're not duplicating our efforts. The next few pages give you an overview of our core abilities process, a little bit of a narrative about it and what we're doing, as well as the overall snapshot. We assess our core abilities on a 5-point Likert scale, with 3 being mastery. So 1 is the student is still developing on that particular item, 3 is mastery of it, and 5 is exemplary. You can see where, as an institution, we do on each of those individual core abilities. We assess core abilities, hopefully every core ability every semester. But the assessment committee looks at 1 in particular. That way we're not going to do too much in 1 semester, and we can look at those. You see the results there for the last 2.5 iterations. And you're looking at data for 22-23, because there are some things that we haven't finished on reporting for some of this. You can look at the next page. All of those are above that mastery. We dive into the 2 different core ability assessments that we did compared to the prior year as well, our prior iteration, so you can see those numbers and any changes that we made here. Questions? I was told not to spend 45 minutes, so. For an hour on data.
We gotta spend.
But the next section, we're looking at technicals that line up. Specifically looking at completions. We are trending your completions here. Down below, you have a section that looks at the numbers, so the number of degrees and certificates awarded. This is also going to include the number of certificates and degrees in particular areas. So the number of certificates at each. I've also included student success there. This is something that comes from K-War's key stats. And the reason I included this is because success for our students isn't always just earning a certain award level. Sometimes our students come here because they want to take a couple classes to improve their skills in one area or the other, or maybe they're high school students and then they eventually go someplace else. And so looking at success as a bigger picture, which includes earning degrees for completions, retaining students, but also them transferring out to other institutions, gives us a pretty good idea of our total success rate. And you can see that our success rate, well, this is about 73% of students in a specific cohort that they look at. For credentials, this is looking at the number of students who have earned a third-party credentials, kind of like that OSHA 10 certification or some NCCER certifications. And I give you the number of students who attempted. That's a number of certifications attempted versus passed, and that's not the individual students themselves. as well as job placement rates. All of these come from the Paybor's Key Stats website. You can go look at all of this yourself. It's available publicly. We just put it in this report for you as well. You can see by the different award levels, their job placement rates according to Paybor. And that is pulling for students who either told us that they had a job or the state was able to look at the Department of Labor information for Kansas and Missouri. If a student moved outside of that location, we don't have that information. For earnings, you can see the average earnings by award levels for our students for the past several years. The most recent one for all awards for 2021 is about $45,000 or just over that. Co-curricular, this is coming from some of our indirect measures of assessment, so the student satisfaction survey and some of the questions we ask on that. Read those overall is about the kinds of engagement that our students have. What activities do we offer our students? Enrichment, we do a lot of that through the Teaching and Learning Center. And so I give some information on there as far as our usage of different online tutoring, as well as in-person tutoring and things that the Teaching and Learning Center has offered to students to help them with their educational process and journey. And then leadership, there are a number of institutions or organizations that we offer students very specifically geared towards our mission and vision. And then the students' perceptions of how those are helping them. For indirect measures of student satisfaction, so looking at satisfaction survey, are students satisfied? And some of these will go back to some of those other components. So looking at the core abilities, do students feel like MATC has helped them with solving quantitative literacy or numerical problems? Can they write and speak clearly and effectively? Overall, this is the students who responded positively to those questions. And those are pretty good responses. One of my favorite is I always ask on that the satisfaction survey, are you satisfied with MATC? And 78% of our students are satisfied, and only 6% are reporting any level of dissatisfaction.
Probably in math.
Probably.
Not even here to throw the dagger at.
Also ask our PAC members for some feedback about that experience, and those results are included in here as well. You got course evaluations.
Back up a minute. 53% most up-to-date technology and the program equipment. We have a gap there that we need to work on. Okay.
And that's all the packs together. That's
Right.
okay. So,
Right.
I don't know, when I look at stuff like this, like, I don't know where everybody else is, so it's 53% high, low?
And there's no way to really know. This particular report responds to Higher Learning Commission assessment of student learning primarily. Every institution does something, but they all do it differently for this. There's no one way to do this that would have been easy if HLC would have done that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And understand this is also of the individuals who choose to respond. They're not required to respond. So it may not be a 100% accurate measurement. Questions on that section?
No, thank you.
Course evaluations. We run course evaluations in the spring and fall of every semester. Students, they're administered through Canvas, so that's how they access them. And these are some of the results. For fall of 22, we got an 84% response rate. And we asked them to evaluate, a couple different things about the course itself, and then about the instructor. Those are separate questions for them to look at. Overall, the course content met student expectations. Those who responded positively, that's the true and mostly true. That's going to be 80% of the time. Which responded that 89% of the time that they rated their instructor as an excellent instructor.
You gotta keep that one in mind.
And for spring, you had somewhat similar results. And because this is a report, I put this vision and all those nice things on the back. Hopefully that gives you for that component.
Roll back up. Sarah Phillips.
Right.
This was for the 22-23.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Every year I do it, I update that list for what it was at that point in time.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of idea as to the number of credentials, awards, etc., and how we're meeting those mission and visions for everything that we're doing. Looking at workforce preparedness and workforce engagement. David and Chris earlier talked about the workforce engagement, and there are efforts there. But I decided, because I provided you all those numbers that are undergrad numbers, these numbers come from Chris, so you can see how the adult learning program is doing during comparative time frame. You get a full picture of the institution.
Thank you.
And I have that under like
You
15
did
minutes.
great. Every year when we do this, I'll tell you, this one takes time for you to look at it the next month or two, even give us feedback. Like I said, there is no boilerplate for any institution to do this,
I know, I looked.
but it is part of our required monitoring report, so it does need approval. If you want more time to analyze it and for approval for a month or two, understand.
Do you use the feedback?
Yes. That's a key part of the Satisfy Higher Learning Commission is how do we close the loop? And Kim, Jason York, who chairs the assessment committee, that committee has done phenomenal work to do that. Part of it was to give them instructions on the front end. Don't try to eat the whole elephant. We look at pieces. And when you get somebody new into higher education and you're trying to talk about assessment of student learning, everybody assumes it's grades, and it's not grades. How do you know this assignment, this project, this test, what is it really getting to, and why does it matter? Working with Matt Schott, our biology teacher and chair of professional development, we keep looking at how do we close the loop on professional development, which really is a reflection piece. What did we get out of going to a conference, doing a webinar, whatever? And part of that is what I've explained to Matt is sometimes you go to something and you come back going, hey, we're better off than I thought. That's valuable. How do we close the loop on that reflection piece of what did we learn from this and how are we going to use it?
And that assessment report is really just an assessment report of assessment we've done. Again, an academic year, there's almost no analysis in there.
You guys want more time to look at this, or? I looked at it beforehand and I don't see any issues
I don't need any more time.
in there. And so I'd entertain a motion to approve our achievement of ends. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. My report, he'll throw that up, but let's talk about, right off the top of the bat, we have a perfect verdict from the Higher Learning Commission, a perfect report, no follow-ups, no monitoring reports. That is rare. So on behalf of me, thank you, faculty, staff, students, employers. We probably should have had some champagne. I actually, as you'll see later in the report, I was on 2 national podcasts this month. One was about accreditation because of our report and how good it was. So that's phenomenal. As I told our employees, we actually got this. I gave my update 2 weeks ago. now's the time with accreditation where you kind of draw a line in the sand. You have the perfect report. What do we want to change going forward? So Kim's working on that. Part of what I have asked her to look at working with other folks on campus is how can we take a look at what programs could we do competency-based credit where it's not related to seat time? Similar to what Southern New Hampshire University does, their phenomenal growth in some other universities. Tech Ed is prime for competency-based, so look at that. Let's talk about the legislature. So 2 weeks ago at the KBOR meeting, while we're at the meeting, the House leadership in the state legislature released their preferred budget, which included a 7.5% cut across the board on state funding, plus eliminating any appropriations that had just started in the past 2 fiscal years, including the current one. Impact on MATC was approximately $1.5 million reduction. Flint Hills Tech was looking at $2 million. Say there's some good news, huh? So I brought in Kara and Josh, sat them down and said, guess what? If that would happen, we have to look at financial exigency. We have to look at reduction in force. Not the favorite thing to do. And I filled Brian Cook in on it on the faculty side. There's no way if we get that kind of, actually, if we get probably a cut over 2%, we've got to look at that. With my report, you have a link, testimony I gave to the House Higher Ed Budget Committee last week. Nope, not that one. It's on the president's report. It's a farther down. I think there's a PDF link. If I did it right.
There was.
So the testimony,
Just a picture.
I will send it to you later.
What we received is a.
All of Tech College presidents had input on it, as well as our lobbyists. I was the first to testify last week at that committee. I got up to the podium and Representative Amix, who's been on that committee as long as I can remember, and I've testified to that committee for years. Before I could even say anything, he said, "Hey, Jim, glad to see you. I bet you got some more good news for us." Went through the testimony, hitting the highlights. Our testimony, as you know, is based on outcomes. And it also included, we want level funding. First question, when I got done with testimony, the first question from the vice chair of the committee is, would you explain to us and tell us, do you like your relationship being under KBOR? Say now, there's an easy one to answer, huh? Well, we get our funding through them. We coordinate with them to get our funding. I'd rather not be controlled by them. Second question was about affiliation. Do you think you all should be affiliated? If entities want to affiliate, that's great, but frankly, we don't want to because our ability to pivot and move and be responsive. And all the members of the committee are like, huh? The community college lobbyist, a couple of people after me, Heather Morgan, and our testimony synced up for a change. Because again, their role with Tech Ed's fantastic too. So a little bit ago this afternoon, now you can pull up that one. Josh, our lobbyist sent us 2 things. This is from that committee told their revisers to restore level funding for the 2-year colleges. Now, it still has to go through all of the House and the Senate, but we went from a $1.5 million cut to level funding. So when you get a chance to talk to any of our area legislators, tell them please support Manhattan Tech's funding request. With this, if we can pull this off this year, wow. Then there's another one. Oh, not that one. That one. There you are. It doesn't look like much, but there you see from the reviser of that committee to put the base operating grant into statute. Nice. And Representative Howe has said he will introduce that as being exempt, tax exempt, so it stays alive for 2 years. Waiting for the legislature to act. He is also working with our lobbyists to draft the outcomes piece that we are proposing as well. That would not get funded this year, but it would move to try to get the parameters established. So I'm pretty damn proud of what we pulled off. It ain't done yet, and we're still working on it, but this, compared to where we were 2 weeks ago, I feel a whole lot better. And then, of course, the Regional Growth Summit, several of you, got, I don't know how many mentions from the speaker stand, but a bunch. The pressure is going to be on. So now if you go back to that one with, from the city, that one. Yeah, I can make that out, can't you? Yeah, it's the one that's highlighted. So in the Chamber's Growth Summit plans, this is among their benchmarks, indicators, is number 7 is all about us. So we're working on all of that. I have drafted and given to the Chamber folks. They want us to look at how do we contract, whether it's with the city or other entities, on job training as an income producer for us, as well as a driver for the community. And if you slide a little farther to the right, you'll see that's the time bar, but those things, we're first in the first and second quarter of this year to be working on this stuff. So again, you know, Tim and Brett, you've been on the board a long time. John, you've been aware of us for years. We're at the table, expected to produce. It's a good thing. Earlier today, the Manhattan City Commission had their retreat in here. Chris gave them a tour. We're pretty solid with that group. The county commissioners all around us, I'm more worried about. But again, good stuff. So we'll be giving you updates on this probably every month as we.
Josh, move back to the
left.
Always moving. I meet with John Ford all the time. It's not the issue that we have. I'm trying to get the second vote of like, I can't say what I'm thinking in this room, but not easy, I guess is the way to say it, like nigh on the damn impossible. And I don't understand it. I don't know how to help you with that.
We just keep giving them information. You know, I've worked with Harry. We're going to be working on when can we meet with the Pot County Commission because they have new members over. We've been working anything that Shanna needs related to Caterpillar, and there are some good leads on that. We're prepared on that. So again, we're dealing from a pretty good position to pivot whichever way we've got to go. But compared to 10 years ago, that's pretty cool to see that the chamber is looking at us.
I know with Wamego, they're up to 7 prospects last I had seen. So that's 7D, the regional employers in need of custom training. Is that falling more in with the new program? Okay.
Head of the game.
Okay. I'm just making sure that we're in alignment.
I think what you said is important, and what's really hard when you're serious is you work so hard to get to the table. And then once you're there, the expectations go up or down. And now you're at the table, you're expected to perform and report back that performance, you know, that's sometimes harder than getting to the table.
So I'm hoping by the February board meeting, you'll have a copy of this. This is an agreement between us and K-State on co-enrollment to help them with their enrollment by getting the students who aren't quite qualified for us. This is a draft. We're still cleaning it up. But it's been through K-State legal. Our lawyers have looked at it. They're good with it. We're making a few changes. But I think we're actually going to do it this time and get that through with K-State. When we met with their enrollment team a couple months ago, this is step 1 at their request. Step 2 is what they call a second chance agreement to refer their students who are having difficulties to us. And then step 3, I'm working with their provost on the applied bachelor's programs that would take advantage of our students. Technical programs where they could advance into like a project management or supervisory management applied bachelor's degree. Not affiliation, it's collaboration. And that's how we want it. But
When you're gonna sign this, who's gonna sign for K-State?
provost. I've been in the meetings with President Linton and the provost where Linton looked at the provost and said, Jesse, make this happen. And I talk with Rich every month. So like I said, I think finally we're gonna make a breakthrough. This would go, the pilot on this would be effective spring of 26. To allow time for the marketing and all the procedural stuff that still has to get worked out. But it does help us with their enrollment, but it also helps our enrollment in credit hours, especially in gen ed and some tech areas.
Would this be something similar to the?
It's actually, this is set up for 4 years, although either party could pull out if needed to, but it's trying to give it a more long-term.
Yeah.
Neil, and he's worked with Laura in financial aid, Carrie, Chris, all giving it eyes. This will be a big step if we can pull it off.
Bet you were strutting around like a peacock this week.
Yeah.
Oh, Bloom.
You know, Friday, that thing for what, 8 hours felt like, or longer. And then several of us went to the Wamego celebration event that night. And which was good, it's good networking, but again, people are like, they're looking at me and Chris. We're hearing it's about Manhattan Tech, it's a good thing, yeah.
Deserved.
Well, on the K-State thing, though, there's finances that are tangential to it, but there's not a requirement that somebody gets money and then distributes it out.
The way this is set up, the students would enroll in at least 9 credit hours a semester with us. The financial aid will come through us. They also have to take 1 class from K-State and live on campus there. So Laura would package the aid based on the total cost. The student in this agreement, the obligation is on the student to respond to the appropriate billing statements from each institution, and we will apply the aid accordingly.
And this is something that other states do, correct?
Yeah, it shouldn't have been this tough. Yeah.
I don't think I've seen this happen other way.
But it's, like I said, this,
Not new, like I said, this.
no, and we've been working on it for years. At least.
That's just since I've been here.
So the chamber thing, the K-State thing, legislature, accreditation. All good stuff. And I'm also supposed to give you an update on strategic plan. So don't go into a panic. We're not going through all 15 slides. If you'll slide down, because it's basically the same thing I gave you last fall. Stephanie's already leaving because she doesn't want to. No, fine, I'm kidding you. Roll on down. Keep going.
Stephanie.
Yes, Stephanie.
Number 11. So the update I gave to our employees that I want to give with you, especially after the change in administrations, it's called VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. You know what? We've been dealing with it for years. We had the coronavirus, we had Trump 1. Trump 1 was good for workforce education. 2 will be as well. What we have to understand is it's going to be constant tension and change. Constant. He said he's going to dismantle the Department of Education. That doesn't mean the funding goes away, it gets split up. What I don't want is accreditation to be part of the state. But he's got a long sell on that. Let's go to the next slide, please. So yeah, a lot of this is based on politics and government policies. There's also the enrollment cliff coming up. That's a lot of people are worried about. We live in an area of the state not as susceptible to the enrollment cliff, plus Fort Riley. Plus this thing with K-State will drive some enrollment. The third bullet on the left, this is a quote straight out of a national higher education media. Remarkable story out of Kansas of a public university president accusing a public technical college of competing for students. Well, isn't that what we're supposed to do? And that university president warned of a hostile takeover as a result. That's Emporia State in Flint Hills, the Emporia State president. I like the guy personally, but he's bananas. Yeah, I mean. And Emporia's getting nailed. If you haven't paid attention, they're losing businesses. They've lost like 2 major manufacturers now on the way out. Then the other thing, top right, college athletics. Thank God we don't have athletics or housing. Thank you, thank you. Because as you know, it's just another professional league, and the public perception is changing quickly because while athletics may raise those money separately, everybody thinks it's public funds. And 2 states, Oklahoma being the latest, signed an executive order, the governor signed an order there that public funds can be used to support NIL for OU and OSU, just so they can be competitive. So I'm sorry, we can't get faculty a raise, we can't get you the equipment you need. We gotta have winning athletic teams.
So how's that work out at Northwest College? Northwest Tech, yeah.
They have it to raise enrollment. Primarily,
Okay,
and they have housing.
well, Goodland is the armpit of the state.
Wichita Tech. I think you know that, right?
That's 5 words.
Got help at least.
It's a little.
I used to live out that direction.
Wichita Tech has had the national champions in esports. We're not going anywhere near that stuff because of this cost thing. We have our hands full enough with KBOR, second bullet, math and English pathways, complete college America, first 15 related to gen ed. 2 weeks ago at the Regents meeting, they're talking about the HBC has approved 90 credit hour bachelor's degrees instead of 120 to ramp up how people can get things. And the Regents are like, oh my God, we can't do that. Where's the integrity? It's change. People are learning all the time. My biggest worry of our sustainability isn't the legislature and it ain't the Regents. I'm more worried about AI. Now, AI can't drive a hammer yet. I'm a lot more worried about AI in the future than anything else. A little fun one there. Go to the next slide.
Sorry, Carrie.
So
No offense,
our success and sustainability really depends on employers. Do they believe in us? It's that relationship. Are we giving them what they need? Not all employers will step up, but I think I'm right, Brett. If we're of value to an employer, you're going to help fight some of our battles.
Jim, how, I'm serious now, how big of an area do you consider, or do you want to consider the employers be from? Is it Raleigh County, Pod County, is it?
Right. I would say Marshall, Clay, where we have a lot of work to do, Geary, Riley, Pot. We split Dickinson County with Salina Tech. I've left it to Salina. I mean, we could go there. I think there's a chance to partner with Washburn Tech towards going east a little ways and with Flint Hills Tech to the south.
Well,
it's
it just we try to work with Manhattan employers first as kind of like the test case. Yeah, but then I didn't know.
Manhattan and Potawatomi have been our primary because of the relationship and cooperation between the Chamber and EcoDevo over there. Geary County, we stay plugged in. And I think we'll make a breakthrough there between the Patterson grant being on the fort, and then we're doing a healthcare task force over there with Cloud, with Bramlage, et cetera. So it's kind of picking and choosing to an extent. Where can we make an impact? Where can we get the outcome? But what I've reiterated to my employees, it's that relationship with the employers. That's what we got to have. I challenged tech college presidents. If we had 1 or 2 key employers from each of our service areas willing to testify to the legislature, it'll make a difference. So the changes in our strategic plan are mostly get ready to keep changing because it's going to keep changing. Next slide. Is there another one? So basically, like David talked about, and this is what I shared, overall our thing is providing higher education. We have the college, but then we're doing workforce solutions and Tech Plus. How can we be as flexible and as valuable as we can be with results? We're gonna have to pivot a lot, and that's our advantage.
I know we're working strongly with Michelin.
as strongly as they'll let us,
Right.
and they're kind of up and down because of the tariff issue, frankly.
Is Washburn Tech is plugged into Goodyear?
Washburn Tech is getting much more plugged in because they have a leader that believes in what Washburn Tech can do, and they have a dean at Washburn Tech that can get it done. But they're more worried right now about taking care of Shawnee and Jackson counties.
Hmm.
The community colleges are a bit more paranoid because the legislature is also working on how do you reduce and or cap property taxes. So, we don't have a dog in that fight, so they're very concerned. I expect more pressure to be put on us, Salina Tech and Flint Hills Tech, to affiliate. We continue to have discussions about how the three of us collaborate more. Affiliation, show me something positive that I could recommend to you, fine, but there's not a positive yet. We wouldn't get any more money from K-State or anything like that. But collaboration, if we show there's some success in that, I think it's the best way to, again, make us sustainable.
We get from K-State would be more headaches.
And I think there are members of the legislature very serious, because I've had this mentioned to me by at least 3 of them. They probably are going to do an interim committee at some point on, is there a different way to govern higher education? That let me, I can testify. In Illinois, for example, there's a governing board for the universities. There's a separate board for the community colleges. Community colleges have their own board. We have our own board. So what do you need that state board to do? We technically have it already with the Tech Ed Authority. So I think there may be some changes for too long on governance.
I have another question. If we're in all those counties, at least since I've been on the board, just 2 years, something like that. I don't remember, keep track, but someplace around there. We have never talked about our name. Because when I look at our name, it stops at the city limits.
The counties I listed are part of our service area. We have not been in, our welding folks interact with Landall. Healthcare maybe a little bit with Clay, but there's a lot more we have to do up there. We have had discussions in past years about the name. My second meeting I had in Johnson City 10 years ago, they said, can you change your name? And I said,
And all that. It's just that, that's why I asked the question about what employers is it beyond Manhattan? Because at some point it does make a difference.
and that's why my talks with Salina and Flint Hills Tech, we've talked about, do we call it like the Mid-America Technical Consortium? Do we look at a name like Great Plains? We can't take Flint Hills because that's already taken. I don't think anybody's opposed to examining that. I know the local chamber appreciates it being Manhattan area technical.
So I have mixed feelings, but I just look at what we're trying to do.
We kicked around calling it Tallgrass Technical College, trying to look at something regional.
Still in the domain.
Just do like a bank and you just make it into an acronym.
Well, you don't want me to do that.
We already are. You've heard it at the summit. It was ATC multiple times. I didn't hear it called Manhattan Tech that many times.
I was really thinking is it'd be.
And that's
MATC, not Manhattan area.
And that's why I've leaned to call it Mid-America. The letters stay the same. But our draw around surrounding state, et cetera.
There's a great example of BNSF. That is their title.
Yeah.
That's not what they used to be, but it was all those letters. The river. So they got away from all the names. We may need to think about it at some point.
Gives us a long email address currently. .edu.
While we're on that subject real quick, I just wanted to get your guys' sense that since you were there at the summit, was there anything on the discussion about the metro area that would be detrimental to the college?
Not that I can really put my hand on. I think the pros would probably be very much outweighing the cons, if you could actually get the collaboration of the communities.
What do you mean metro? I don't.
So what's their acronym? I forget what it is. It's
Greater Topeka,
Well, the Greater Topeka Partnership is what started the discussion to have the
Lawrence, Topeka, Manhattan
Manhattan.
declared as a metropolitan statistical area by the feds. You have to get up to 500,000 population, and we move way up on potential economic development projects.
There are some real pros, but
Okay.
we haven't quite figured out what the cons are yet.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the map.
Yeah.
Well, and they. threw
There's
up a
Kansas
graphic,
City and then
like this
the
nice
rest of
arrow.
Kansas.
KC metro area was like 4 million square miles, but the Lawrence to Manhattan is like 3 million. So it's actually a smaller area than the KC metro area.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I think one of the cons that they brought up that they need to explore is we would miss out on some of those regional grants or rural funding grants and all these other areas. But would that offset because now we're in MSA?
But communities like Wamego would not be, they're still rural, if you will.
Okay, so it's pocketed, kind of.
Well, you've got those major cities, if you will, as being this classification. The goal would be you'd either have to add Emporia or Salina probably to get over that 500,000 threshold. But then nationwide, we would be like 112th in the nation as an MSA. Right now, Manhattan is like 380th.
Well, you lose some money, you gain other.
Right, and so that's the
It's one of
trade-off.
those Where you get the most and what kind is the most beneficial to get.
Frankly, I think there's some merit in looking at it from the fact that you'd have the Peasley Center at Lawrence, which does apprenticeships. Washburn Tech, us, and then if you added either Salina or Flint Hills Tech, you have another tech college. So from that workforce perspective, you have the potential of a lot of synergy and collaboration that really could make a big hit related to economic development.
So it started with, there's a group called Metal, or it was Metal, because it was Manhattan.
Emporia, Topeka, and Lawrence.
Emporia is kind of getting dropped out. As time goes on for various reasons, so they're really looking more at Salina being added. I don't think it has a name with that group.
The Metal Group, the last 3 years, has supported all the tech colleges with the legislature. It's been one of their combined asks, so we've had support that way.
We really had a hard time adding Lawrence because we were thinking it should be something that started with H like Harrington, because then it'd be meth.
I was thinking Slam with Salina, Lawrence, and Manhattan. Oh, you have to peek in there, so.
So we'll give you updates because again, this is going to be flexible, moving around. There is a plan. What's next on the agenda, sir?
Incoming events.
Yeah, those things, you saw in my president's report, there's a list of things rented out in this building with training and different things. Like I said, that's picking up a lot. March 12th, 60th celebration, that's business after hours with the chamber. BBN and BHS are partnering with us, paying for the costs. Bad thing is, that's the same evening that Keyboard's holding their legislative reception in Topeka, so I may deputize Harry to go to that. Legislature's anticipating being done with the budget as early as April.
No.
They're on a, according to our lobbyist, and Steve's pretty good, what's going on right now is pretty much whatever the House comes up with for a budget, the Senate's gonna go, okay. I'll believe that when I see it, but that's what's being talked. I just hope the restored funding recommendation stays. So a lot of stuff. We're one in the nation, A+ with HLC. Good audit report. Done good. Anything else, people?
I have a request that just give us a heads up
it might be a 3. I mean, I know that it was a very long agenda, in there. But maybe a heads up of, hey, be prepared mentally, I guess, to sit here.
Fair. And the board, you may want to consider looking at those monitoring reports. Is there anything you want changed, can be reduced? I don't know. Those, they do eat up a lot of our time over there. They're also important for accountability.
We have to be able to answer those questions again in 2030 when HLC is sitting down in front of us.
But we will explore some ideas so you're not here as long. Then have to look at, do we do some of it by Teams or Zoom? We can do, no, this is taking up your time. I get it.
One of the big options in that is that we as a board would have to be diligent in looking at all those monitoring reports, but before we come in here, that way can shorten that discussion that we have to have in the room. Which I'm as guilty as anybody else. Probably more so than David.
And we could look at monitoring reports, become what we do once a year as a retreat, but we dive it all in as a long meeting then and not worry about it the rest of the year. I don't know.
Well, it all depends on how long the retreat is and what refreshments are served afterwards.
At least no executive session this month.
Yes. Yeah, I look
2 meetings in a row.
Keep it going. Yep.
It's gotta be a record.
For those of you traveling, be careful. We do have a few folks going off to Dreamscape Learning in Phoenix tomorrow. Get some more ideas.
Nice.
I'll be in Florida at during the next meeting, so I'll be thinking of you all, but I will not be joining.
I hear they're gonna have a
No,
storm
no
coming
snow.
in there again.
No more snow at the end of February. Oh,
A week ago Wednesday, we were 6 degrees warmer than New Orleans.
I know.
Yeah. Well, thank you again.